Hi, everyone. Welcome to another wonderful BritTrack virtual panel. My name is Robin the Hat, and I am going to be your moderator for this panel called Bad American Remakes, or a subtitle, Watch Robin the Hat Curse for an Entire Hour. Because in this panel, I am going to curse for an entire hour. No, I'm not. But what I am going to do is we're going to talk about some of the worst American remakes of British shows that should not have seen the light of day, and a couple that actually haven't. So we're going to start off by introducing the rest of my panelists. To this direction over here, we have Matthew Brewer, amateur genre specialist. Say hello, Matthew.
Hi, everyone. How's your, well, probably not answering, but hope your Dragon Con is doing well.
I'm sure it's going awesome there, Matthew. And then underneath me, we have Janae McKinney, who is part-time magistrate judge and volunteer director of the Dragon Con Vendor Hall store.
Hi, everybody.
And then finally, we have the Roxa Spaz House, researcher for NeatCoffee.com, podcast Weekend Justice.
Hi. Hope your con is going well. And don't forget to rate this show at the end.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So, British shows have been adapted for American audiences for decades. From the new adaptation of Miranda, titled Call Me Cat, to the remake of Man About the House that we know as Three's Company. Mm-hmm. This panel is going to discuss the differences and where things were truly lost in translation. So we have three tiers that we are going to talk about. These tiers are going to be colloquially known as the good, the bad, and the rubbish. But we are actually going to start in reverse and talk about the rubbish, which, in my opinion, is 99% of all the bad American remakes. So let's just jump right into it, and let's name some really bad remakes. Let's start with Janae.
I think Being Human was probably on the top of my list, and then Star's Torchwood was definitely not the same as British Torchwood.
Yeah.
It was painful to watch.
Can you elaborate a little bit on why? Why do you think that is? As
far as Being Human is concerned, I didn't feel the intensity of the roommates like I did in the British version. Like they all had each other's back. I mean, through thick, thin, heaven, hell, they all had each other's back. I did not have that feeling at all for the American version.
That's a good point. And the Torchwood on Stars?
Well, they definitely watered down Jack's personality. I mean, it was difficult to watch him not be as vibrant and pansexual and cheeky as he was in the original Torchwood. I think the plot line was good, but the character development was very poor.
It's almost as if he wasn't the star of his own show.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Rox, what about you?
I'm going to go with Red Dwarf USA. For that, because you had a more diverse cast with the British show, mm-hmm. and the US show it's almost like they had jokes from our show from Sid Caesar. Mm-hmm. There was the laugh track that they used from 1962, mm-hmm. And it was just like they were going through the lines. So I'm going to go with that. And I guess, are we going to talk later about why these things are not, why the U.S.
Oh, yes.
Everything's okay. All right. So
yes,
yeah, I'm going to go with that, and probably IT Crowd U.S.
Oh,
yeah.
Right. Yes.
Just because I know our IT Crowd guys don't act like that. I mean, they do, but it's just it was just poor.
Yeah.
Poor. All right.
Even though it had Moss.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And that we'll discuss later about what happens in translation, mm-hmm. even though we all speak English.
Yeah.
All right, and Matt, what are your top worst remakes?
I'm gonna go a little back into the '80s to Three's a Crowd, which is actually the readaptation of Robin's Nest, which was a spinoff of Man About the House, which became Three's Company America.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
And how I saw that in a few episodes was it really lost the translation to me because it was having a lot of the things established from the parent show already setting up the setting up for the Brit for Three's a Crowd, which didn't need it. And they were trying their best to redo it with a different format and all that, but it lost a lot of the dynamics between the characters. The characters were fine. It just the translation was very, very loose, and it was more about Jack Tripper's character instead of making it more an ensemble and the conflict between the John Ritter's character and Robin Van Dam's character, who was the father in the American remake. So it lost a lot of translation there. And the one that I saw clips of and why I 100% agree is Skins, which kind of it something like that works fine in the UK, but something like that in America, it's not it doesn't translate well. It's like the saying, what's good on paper doesn't look good in movies or film.
Right.
It didn't look.
That's good. And I'm going to bring up one that no one has yet, but really should be at the top of the list in my opinion. Coupling. The American coupling was a word for word just about remake of the British coupling.
Yeah.
But everything.
See, I wasn't a fan of that show anyway.
Really?
So yeah, I'm like, okay. I mean, I guess because I was already past that kind of me thing, so I'm like, okay, it holds no interest. So I didn't even bother.
Definitely didn't miss anything with the American version. I mean, it was as plastic and corporate as it could be. It was sad.
And it was following the Friends trend, which was dying a little bit. And plus, if you're going to do a remake and use some of the scripts, you could use just some of the scripts, reworded to Americans like what we did with British scripts, and reword it to American and make it close, but not close enough, but similar. But if it's going to be that word for word verbatim, it's not going to, it doesn't, sometimes it just doesn't work well.
And that's where we're going to go into a bit of an analysis, Matt. So talking about all of these, what we consider to be the rubbish remakes, why do you think they failed? Because there had to have been some smart people behind them.
I know.
Ross, I think you might have an idea there.
So if you really look at American entertainment, they've been pilfering for almost 50 years, right? You have to look at a couple things. One is the way the British produces shows and how the US produces shows. US is heavy on advertisement. So you have a larger, machine that handles everything. So you are going to get, so you're going to get a producer. There's a really good show, called Episodes with Matt LeBlanc. If you want to know how Lost in Translation works, that is a really good show. So, but it's all British, or it's all US. It's on Showtime. So you get somebody that loves British shows and say, hey, we could make it here. Couple things. They don't look at the demographics of who watches British television thinking this will be a hit. I mean, it's almost like they forget the Nielsen ratings sometimes. Right. Like, hey, this is actually a small segment. Will this translate to a larger audience? As you were saying about Jack earlier, so when a show comes over, all of a sudden, whoever created that show, they're faced with like a room full of writers. So they have no influence on that show anymore.
Mm-hmm.
If they're lucky to be consulted
If they're
at all.
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because that
So,
wasn't the case with Red Dwarf, right? Because I think those writers were actually part of the American version.
were they?
I
Then
know
shame on them.
I know that Robert Llewellyn came over to play Crichton,
He did,
the
Right.
same character,
Yeah.
and it didn't help.
Right.
Oh no.
Yeah. So you may be right.
It was
Yes.
written by Linwood Boomer, in one of the pilots.
Yeah, but
And,
I think the
yeah, but
original script writers, I think they were like his consultants.
they were like executive producers,
Right.
creators and executive producers. So
Well,
that
it's like Simon Pegg didn't get in any writing cred for the American Space, which was just as bad.
Right.
Yeah.
That was just horrible. That was
Mhm.
just not, that was beyond, that just like should never have been done, because that too is a show that's very niche, very cult,
Mhm.
and it should have been left alone, because it just didn't, Big Bang Theory has its own larger following, but
Right.
you have something like Spaced, it's like you created something smaller, it's a smaller audience. So to see if that will work doesn't always pan out. And by the end of the day, they always look for numbers. Will advertisers spend money during the time slots for advertisement? That is a big deal for American television.
Yeah.
Unless, and this one we'll talk about later, unless it's one of the premium channels.
Right.
Yeah. And what you said about writers in British television, and most British television, they always have one writer for the show, and usually that's the creator of the show who writes. And there's not that many episodes.
Right.
Here in America, you have a whole bunch of writers, and very rarely the same writer is writing a lot of episodes. It's very rare that I see a show do that.
Mm-hmm.
So one person could be translating one episode, and another person is translating another, and it's going to be a mismatch.
Exactly.
So it'll lose that translation in the mix because of that.
And they don't want to spend money on a show that is a limited series.
Right.
I mean, the US now is finally doing that. We're used to like 26 episodes of for a season.
Mm-hmm.
Where they're like, hey, 6 episodes, we're good.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yes.
They don't beat a dead horse once the story is told.
Right.
There you go. That's why we're waiting so long in between Sherlock episodes. We're hopefully going to get season 5 in 2054.
That's when he's beekeeping.
There you go. I heard a great interview with Stephen Fry about what he thinks the difference between American humor and British humor is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this might go a long way to kind of explaining why some people are more attracted to British humor. And that is, in British humor, people fail. The stars, they're not the successes.
Right.
They're the rejects, the outcasts. Look at the fall and rise of Reginald Perrin. It's exactly what it says on the tin. Yes.
Yeah.
He fails and is just utter trash halfway through the series, and then you see him kind of get back on his feet. The American version, Reggie, took the gimmick of him having flashes inside his head. That's all it did. It didn't say anything about him, falling apart. It was your standard cookie cutter sitcom, and it just did not work.
Is that because with American television in general, we have to have a hero?
A hero. Yeah.
If you look at like The Office, Michael Scott is so different than Ricky Gervais's
Oh yeah,
boss.
definitely.
I mean, he becomes almost like a hero, even though he's a crappy boss.
Mhm.
We can't make that leap of having somebody fail or even keeping up appearances. We love to see her fail, right? This is okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, so we do like to see that. But on the other side, are we talking the niche again of
Yeah.
the audience? Because you have shows like Full House that has been on for like 13 years or something like that, and I've never watched it. You know, where it has a larger audience, or even Big Bang Theory.
Right.
I
What do
mean,
you think
with
about
that?
Sorry.
Well, with that, it's like, yeah, they kind of fail, but they sort of win at the end, even though it is about a bunch of
Yeah.
nerds and stuff. There's sort of like it goes beyond. If we had the Nielsen ratings, we would know of how big that audience is. But shows that translate well, and I know you brought up Three's Company, that went on for years.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know,
And the thing with that, it in the first 3 seasons, it actually stayed almost
It
true
did.
to the original
oh,
format.
absolutely,
Right.
very true.
And then when they lost the Ropers and got their spinoff, which is a good spinoff, it's not a terrible one. It's just got shifted in terrible time slots.
Right.
Yes.
It just lost the format and just became
The chemistry was gone.
Yeah, it became
Right.
more like it was more of a tour de farce, like a comedy of errors, like
Mhm.
always miscommunication. And that thing kind of like dies it kind of died. The jokes died at the end. Because the original, when the first 3 years, they actually did use the British scripts, made it American, but there wasn't that miscommunication problem that
Right.
happened. It was
And I
more,
think American shows are too quick to switch actors too.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
mean that's a big deterrent for me when I'm watching a show, and then next week I come on and Bob is played by somebody else. I'm like, what the heck happened to Bob? You know.
Mhm.
So that to me that's a disconnect. I love to see the same actors over and over again in a show that they're good in.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
you never know. The same thing could happen with the British show. They do replace actors on that show depending on which. So it kind of is a catch-22 on replacement characters.
I think they replace a character. I don't think they necessarily replace the actor, except for
Well, they've
something
done
like
that a couple.
Doctor Who.
Well, I think a couple of shows have done that. It's just, but in the way how British television does it, since they have a big gap between that and there's not that many
Right.
episodes,
It's
it's
not so
not as
noticeable or
noticeable.
painful, right?
Yeah,
As
here
obvious,
it's going to
yeah.
be noticeable.
Mhm.
All right. So, any last thoughts about the rubbish before we move on?
Yes.
I think we're ready to sweep that out.
Yeah.
Ready to sweep out the rubbish?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So let's move on to the bad. The ones that could have worked if maybe they put more thought into it,
Yeah.
or if they maybe had just based it less on the original material, it might have been okay. We're going to go to Matthew for his first thoughts. What is the bad?
The bad, I think, over time, I'm going to say American Idol, because over time
Mhm.
it was fine. It mirrored the original Pop Idol, and then over time it lost a lot. And the fact that we are milking it up to the end. When I
Yeah.
thought Fox canceled it, I thought, thank God that show ended. And then when ABC
I guess
picked
he
it
picked
up,
it up.
I was like, God damn it. Why? Sorry about my language. But it was like, let this show die. Let the show die. It
Mhm.
needs to die.
Well, but the thing is going back to us as Americans need our heroes, even if it's on a basic level. I think that fills something for the void of
Yeah.
American culture.
But here's my thing. And this has happened with Deal or No Deal. And this is not a British remake because it's Dutch, but it was a hit in Australia and a hit in Britain. The show it did well. Then we took some time off. Took some time out, came back. Some people liked it, but it was put in a terrible channel, CNBC,
Mhm.
when it should have been stuck with NBC. And if it was on NBC, the show would have probably got a little bit of time. The same thing with Weakest Link. It was a good show. It petered a bit, and then it went off the air for a while. And then we brought it back last year. It's okay, but yes, some shows just need a break. If something like a reality show just needs a break, we take breaks with our game shows, with most of our game shows.
Well, with game shows, that is really also the cult of personality.
Yeah.
As far as, that's why Alex Trebek is our guy.
Right.
That's why Drew Carey did really well with Whose Line Is It Anyway? He was really very good. Because he's personable, and then he took over Bob Barker's place. It's like, again, we love our personalities. I love Regis Philbin. I mean, the American public did not understand Anne whatsoever. It's just like, what?
But now they understand Jane.
Who is she? Why is she mean to us? Yeah. So.
Yeah. And going back to bad, that could have gotten better. A few episodes of Pain.
Matt, that was a very good. That was a very good point. Maybe Rox, could you tell us a little bit about Pain, the Faulty Towers remake?
No, I can't. But I'll tell you about the Vicar of Dibley.
Please do.
Okay, so this is going back to. Well, I haven't talked about this. So one of the problems about British translation is who's producing it? Is it on air, free air, television? That's our major NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox. Okay. So Vicar of Dibley, Minister of Divine, that was going to be on Fox. And they just it's bad. It was just 2-3 episodes.
Yeah.
It's like, and I read an article about it. One of the problems with that show, which could have been okay, because we really don't have. We had the Sherman Hemsley from Jefferson he was a reverend and stuff, and I watched several of his shows. I like that guy anyway.
Amen. That was the name of that one.
Yeah, Amen. Yes. Which we really don't have a show about a female reverend.
Right.
We really don't. And that could have been something. The problem is we don't, there was a thing way back in the day called the Rural Purge, which meant like, Mayberry left, Mayberry RFD, Andy Griffith's show, Petticoat Junction, whatever. Those are gone. So most of our shows are in, urban areas. So to have that and to have the quirky characters, you'd almost have to find that little weird village that could be in. And I think because it was Fox, and again, because it was free, that they had to sell advertisement for, that was not going to last because A, people didn't understand it. And two, this was interesting too. We don't have a state religion. We don't have a state, whereas Vicar of Dibley did. We have so many. So that could have been a show you could have swapped out. Hey, here's a reverend, here's a female rabbi, what have you. So that could have been. But I think because who produced it, Fox, dealing with money, it wasn't going to have that, I guess, faith behind it to move it forward.
Right.
All right. Janae.
Yes.
What about, what is that example that you have of a show that was just merely bad?
Well, to go back to your Faulty Towers question, just briefly, I want to say that I think that the American version just wasn't as, I think the hotel owners were just as curious, but not as raunchy.
Yeah.
And the raunchiness was what I really enjoyed about the British version.
Yeah. And to pick up on it, it wasn't. It was bad, but I could watch a couple of episodes of it.
Mm-hmm.
There was another American remake way back with B. Arthur called Amanda's.
Oh yeah.
And it
Oh,
was
yeah.
worse. That was even,
Mhm.
I considered
Yeah.
that worse than Pain. If you had to watch both of those shows, I would watch Pain than Amanda's.
Right.
And
Because
see,
it cut off.
Well,
It cut off
here's-
the Basil character and made it,
Mhm.
and Sybil characters and made them all one, which
Mhm.
Well,
that's off the conflict.
here's a question. Because Faulty Towers, and I haven't seen Pain, I'm sorry, but looking at like what was allowed back in the 70s, does that translate to now in our PC kind of world, and who developed it? You know,
Yeah.
if it was on
I don't know who
HBO,
developed
then you
it.
can get away with
Exactly.
more raunchy stuff. You know,
But I think there are lots of insinuations and innuendos you can still make
Yeah.
and not be totally politically incorrect on mainstream American television.
Right.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the jokes that we do now wouldn't be acceptable then, but a lot of the jokes they do then would not be acceptable now.
Right.
right.
Yeah.
You know how a lot of times we say, "Oh, this movie couldn't be made today," or "This television show couldn't be made today,"
Mhm.
because
Perfect
Because-
example, Murder by Death.
my
God, I
God.
love that movie.
Yeah.
I love
Yes.
the political incorrectness of that movie. It is
Mhm.
hilarious to me. And before I tell people to watch it, I let them know it's probably the most politically incorrect movie you will ever see, but you will laugh your butt off. It's
Mhm.
a great movie.
Yeah.
All right.
And sorry.
Getting us
and-
back on track real quick. I don't know if y'all know this, but Pain is not actually the second remake of Faulty Towers that was
Yeah.
made, but actually the third.
Yeah.
Because there was
So-
one that was made in the 70s with Betty White and Harvey
And-
Korman.
Called Chateau Chavely.
Yes.
Oh,
And actually-
okay.
Yeah, and it was not considered to be picked up because of the cost expenses of all that. So it was only a pilot. So it
Mhm.
never got off the ground because of costs. The second
Mhm.
one, Amanda, got picked up, and you can tell how was devoid of the original of Faulty Towers.
Right.
Yeah. And then
Now,
the other
there-
one I wanted to,
Go ahead.
do you mind? The other one I wanted
No,
to talk
please.
about was Life on Mars, and
Mhm.
how I think the U.S. version just lost all the parody and the cynicism of the British version. They just didn't get it. Harvey Keitel is not a parody, funny type of police officer.
No.
Mhm.
Not
His
on a good
personality
day.
does not match the original intentions of the British show at all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, just seeing him makes you think that it's going to be a serious cop drama and not something that parodies,
Well-
chips.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, we don't do cynicism well
Right.
unless
Yeah.
it's on, a premium channel.
Mhm.
I mean, really, we just don't. If you're
Mhm.
going to have like that larger audience for a show, they work in parameters.
Right.
Can we sell this? And will this go into syndication? And, those are the things that they look at more so than I think language sometimes
Mhm.
and how things come across. That's my criticism.
All right. Any final comments on Just the Merely Bad? Matthew, I think you might have had something.
I think that was it. I don't have any other bad.
I do.
Oh, you do. You have so many.
Yes,
Oh
Rox.
my God. So I'm going to throw this out. This is so it's like the worst remake I think of Black Books was Ellen. No, I'm just kidding. Does anyone believe that she owned a bookstore? I don't. I know it wasn't fun.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to leave Rox with her conspiracy theory right there.
There you go.
And we're going to move on to
Call me
something
Ellen. Sorry.
that I don't really believe in, but the good remake.
Oh, there are some.
There are a
A
lot.
few, but not. But
There
few.
are a lot. Here's the thing.
Maybe
I
they're
can
not
give
as bad.
Okay, here's
I
the
give you
thing.
5.
I'm old. I can tell you, and so is Rob.
Thanks.
One name, Norman Lear.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so till
death us do part.
Let's do a part. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
All in the Family,
Yes.
which spun off everything. Now, here's the thing. He was so smart. He saw that show and adapted it. I mean, he studied it to get it and translate it to the show of All in the Family.
Yeah.
So, yes. I mean, and that was back in the 70s.
Yeah.
So, there's
I can think of another one from the 70s. Sanford and Son and Steptoe and Son.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
There you
That
go.
was another Norman Lear
They
show.
did that, and then they did the spin-off with Grady, which
Yep.
went on for,
1 year.
number of, but some of the British, like the Man About the House, did the same thing.
These Company.
There you go. And all of those, I think, in my opinion, are more the exception that kind of proves the rule. Because those were great shows.
Yeah.
They were. I really liked The Office, and I liked Veep.
Yeah.
I think, and again, so The Office, Shameless, and House of Cards. Okay, here's going back to what I've said. Those three shows are premium shows.
Exactly.
So they throw money and at a show to do it correctly. So NBC takes chances with The Office. They did that. They took chances to do that. NBC kind of tries to forward things, and I think that one worked well until they brought in Catherine Tate. I'm like, I mean, it was just like, hey, we're gonna throw a bone to the British people. Look,
Exactly.
we got Catherine Tate.
Like when Ricky Gervais made the cameo.
Yes,
in the elevator.
Yeah. So, I think those are good ones. But like I said, with like Shameless and House of Cards, Showtime and Netflix. Netflix wants those numbers up, so they're like, yeah, we want. And I liked House of Cards,
I liked House of Cards too,
including that last season, because if anybody that's a fan of Ian Richardson's House of Cards, it's like, what would Elizabeth do? His wife. Yeah, it's just like, wow, what would she do? Oh my god.
All right. So, what other good remakes, Janae? Do you have anything else in mind?
I thought Grace Point did a fairly good job recreating Broadchurch.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't think the female leads in Grace Point were as strong as they were in Broadchurch, but I think it translated well to American audiences. The little boy being murdered, the whole town going crazy, trying to figure out who it was, the twist at the end in the US version that was not the same as the British version. I thought it translated well.
That and the idea of the little town.
Right.
Because with Broadchurch, that village is like a character in itself.
Exactly.
And that is something, again, harkening back to Vicar of Dibley, they don't have that. It's like, well, you should have looked at like Evening Shade or something.
Right.
She should have done that. They should have done that.
Or Northern Exposure.
Northern
Exposure.
Exposure.
Example of a small town. Matthew, what about an example from you for good?
Okay. Like Ross said, the three that really stood out was the 70s was the Norman Lear and Three's Company shows. In my field of game shows, the ones that kind of stuck out, well, the one that's actually stuck out and is considered to me one of the best quizzers is called The Chase. It has been remade in GSN with one chaser, Mark LaBelle, aka The Beast, and Brooke Burns, who was the host of the GSN version. It went off the air, and then it's back on the air with ABC with three of his American chasers, the greatest of all time from Jeopardy, Ken Jennings, Brad Rutter, and James Holzhauer. And this season, they actually paid from the British and brought Mark LaBelle back, which I think is a good move because he's done mainly all the versions of the Chase. And when you think of the Chase, most people will think of the Beast. So, and since he has done the American version once, that would be a good way of kind of bridging the gap of him. And that's one of the best quizzes. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire before all these changes with Reese Philbin was an actual great adaptation of the British format. And because of that, we actually got the first millionaire out of that.
Right.
So we were the first millionaire. And of course, some of the reality shows like Hell's Kitchen was good. I can watch clips of Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah.
The original. Yeah,
but the thing is it's like we get a kinder, gentler Gordon Ramsay though.
Only because of censorship.
If you watch some of the clips off that, or like on YouTube, you'll hear the vulgarity.
Exactly.
Yeah, but the thing is that's what is that Bravo or is that
Fox?
Fox. Okay, but still, okay, that's free TV, so that
exactly.
Yeah, but it's still, but we enjoy, but it's like we enjoy that of the cock up of chefs failing and Gordon Ramsay calling them donkeys instead of all these.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want a very mean host.
Right.
And even though he's actually acting mean, we kind of want that.
So there was that weird, really, because I really don't watch game shows, but there's that Parks and Rec kind of craft show that we have. To me, that's they
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, with Amy Poehler and what's his name? I forgot. Sorry, but it's like here. It's like. No, that's another show, but I love Faking It. No, they were, to me, that was sort of like a craftsman's Great British Bake Off. Like, we're nice.
That's why I think that's what I'm saying. Making
nice
it
competition. Yeah, okay,
not faking it. I think it's making it.
I actually like that, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. That they're taking on the kinder competition, if you will, like like the Great British Bake Off.
Going back to Gordon Ramsay, and Matthew, you said that he's mean. I think, Rox, that this harkens back to your theory that Americans want a hero. And so on these reality shows, in order to have a hero,
you have to have a villain.
With a villain. And that's the role that Gordon Ramsay plays in that shows, because the heroes are going to be the people who eventually win this competition.
Yeah.
So what did you guys think about Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Oh, I love the original Drew Carey era.
I loved it all. Yeah.
I did too. I because the improv people were really very good. And Drew is he could play off of the audience, play off the actors and stuff. So no, I have no qualms about that at all.
Yeah, and I saw a few episodes of Alicia Tyler's version, and she doesn't come off as, she could maybe play off a little bit more like what, and actually have fun with them, unlike Drew, who would be made fun of completely, and he would like make a sarcastic, I'm gonna get you back for this. I have the power of hiring and firing. And I have that buzzer.
Can I throw in one bad one?
Sure.
Go for it.
That's the American Doctor Who with poor Paul McGann. It took how many years for him to be canon?
I enjoyed that movie.
I did too.
It was fine.
I did not enjoy Eric Roberts as the Master, but I enjoyed that movie.
Here's the thing. Again, Fox produced that one, I believe.
Co-produced
on regular TV, and it's just like, oh, this is good, but I knew then, because it was so many years before Peter Eccleston or
Chris Eccleston.
Yeah. That nobody understood it. Again, we think it's a good idea. Here's the little crowd, and we want to make a big audience, and it just didn't go. And that's I had that written down. I'm like, I gotta talk about that. Yeah.
I'm going to give you a little bit of an argument on that because
Okay.
I know, but and it had many faults, not the least of which introducing the romantic aspect to the Doctor. Not the least of which is that the companion who's only been there for 12 hours can operate the TARDIS. And then, but I think in the end, it managed to capture the innate doctorishness. And that was due to
the way I feel
Paul
about it.
McGann. Yes.
It did, but but my argument is for the larger us as fans,
Right.
loved it.
As
Mhm.
Whovians.
Again, I'm talking to you, our Dragon Con people. Listen to me. Yes, we loved it. But as somebody who is in marketing and know the bigger
Right.
picture, that was not going to go the way Fox wanted it. I know that just because it's just like, what? Who is this guy? Wait, he changes? We don't understand, and it would be like a few more years before a joke is made about,
Right.
Doctor Who and people understand it.
It was definitely a targeted audience.
Very much.
Agree.
Oh yeah, I think
Yeah, that was targeted.
But thank you, Fox, for that for us. Yes, thank you.
And just a quick aside, if you liked Paul McGann as the Doctor, Big Finish has created an entire series of Doctor Who episodes in audio starring Paul McGann. So if you and it gets deep, and the character develops and changes, and he's sort of now considered the transformation Doctor from the classic series to the new series.
Because there was so little known about him, they could have written anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it was
he's
a
only
blank
had
slate.
2 televised episodes. His first one and his last one.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So thank you for bringing that up, Rox. I wouldn't have dared, but that was good. And I just have to say, that had my favorite line in that was when the Master, or as I call him, Bruce the Galactic Despot, comes out in the TARDIS dressed in the robes, and he goes, "I always dress for the occasion." Total camp. Oh my God, I love it. Love it.
Oh,
All right. Yes.
We might be going back to the. I might be going back to the bad and rubbish, but this will depend on me. They did do a remake of "Are You Being Served" in the '70s called "Beanies of Boston," and that one was. It wasn't as good. I think because they did water it down a lot, and that's what I feel like. If you're gonna do a remake, you either gotta play to the original or just water it down a little bit, but still be good. And I think it just watered down, especially with department stores now, which would be in different floors.
Right.
And like the men and women wouldn't be in the same floor in America, so it would have lost the translation automatically.
Oh, absolutely! You'd have to have a camera that pans back and forth because everyone's in like a mall area, unless you had it for an older store like Macy's or any of the. Actually, that would be good for one of the Well, that would be like Filene's, and Filene's is gone. So and so I guess the remake would be that thing about like Best Buy show. I haven't watched.
Yeah, it would have
Superstore.
That would be that would be like the closest kind of thing, but they kind of made it like The Office as well. So
All right. So we've covered the rubbish, we've covered the bad, we covered the good. So before we move on to final recommendations, I actually want to ask. We have a couple of shows that are either on now or are just about to come out. And I want to get your thoughts on those real quick. The first one is a remake of Miranda called Call Me Kat, starring Miriam Bialik from The Big Bang Theory and from Punky Brewster. No,
I haven't been brave enough to watch it.
Yeah, Blossom.
Neither have I.
I haven't.
Same here.
So none of us have seen Call Me Kat? Well, then let's just skip that one.
Oh, I saw the trailer. Is that the one with the cat restaurant?
Yes.
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 Okay,
Yes.
okay, yeah, no, because no, I'm not gonna watch that because I'm not gonna walk into some cafe with cats.
Well,
Not here.
Okay.
well,
Not
don't worry.
here.
It's got a
There's
second
got to
season.
be an A listing
Did it?
outside.
It got a second season?
Yeah, I think it got picked up for a second season.
Don't get excited. Don't get excited. Being
No.
Human got 3 seasons, and it was still crap.
Yes.
This is
So-
true.
So the other one that hasn't come out yet is called Ghosts, which is based on the recent BBC series. Have any of y'all seen the BBC version of Ghosts? It's on HBO Max.
I have not, but I'll watch it
No.
now.
I'll watch
Yeah.
it now. But seeing the trailer and not knowing that it was a BBC remake, I would have watched the first, probably the premise. The premise would have been something I would be maybe interesting to watch. Now that you told me that it's the British version, then I'm gonna be like, oh boy, I gotta compare
And,
this to the original.
Exactly.
HBO, so they'll throw money at it for 4 seasons, and then the 5th crap.
Well,
Just saying.
the American Ghosts, I think, is going to be on CBS.
CBS.
Yeah, CBS.
Oh,
HBO Max has the original British version.
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Remember the BBC.
Your whole attitude changed, Rox.
CBS. I'm sorry. I have a hatred for CBS. It's like the home of Murder, She Wrote. Everything looks like it's still on the set of Murder, She Wrote. I had this. Tune into Weekend Justice while I gripe about CBS shows.
Okay, headcanon. What if the ghosts in Ghosts were actually victims from Murder, She Wrote?
Oh.
That would be cool.
I don't want Edie Gourmet in my house. I just don't. No.
It'll be figuring out
You
who
can
to
have-
cast.
I
You
know,
can
right?
have 3 different ghost versions of Robert Culp. I mean, come on.
I know. I was
Right.
just thinking that.
Yes.
And Tom Bosley, the ghost sheriff.
He'll come out of my bathroom and the towel will slip. It's like, no, I told you. Robe all the time. I'm writing my own
All
thing
right.
now.
So, final recommendations. What one remake would you recommend for someone to watch and for someone to avoid? And we're going to start with Janae.
I knew you were gonna do that. Avoid being human. If you want to see a show about a ghost, a werewolf, and a vampire, that's not the one for you. Watch the British version.
Yes. And what about one that you would recommend?
I think I can safely recommend Grace Point, because who doesn't like a somewhat small town murder mystery? That's a mini series that you don't have to invest too much in. So I think I could safely recommend that one. And I think The Office.
Okay.
I mean, it went on for a lot of seasons, and you might not want to invest that much time, but it's a pretty darn good show.
It is.
Awesome. All right. Rox, what about you? Avoid and recommend.
Oh my God, avoid Peep Show.
For
For the US version. I'm like, I'm cringing watching it. And I'm like, this is bad. Do 2 guys talk like that while watching TV? No. Stay. If you see it somewhere on YouTube, don't touch it. If it shows up on your recommendations, because I'm talking about it right now, it's going to be there. Don't touch it. I trust you. House of Cards.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That is really good. It's, it is binge worthy. I'm going to say that. I don't say that a lot about shows. I try to not binge, but that is a binge worthy show.
All right. And
everybody's
Matthew.
All right.
Avoid and recommend.
Oh, skins would be one to avoid. Couplings, obviously, you got to avoid that. And personally, the one that I would really avoid is Three's a Crowd. Because I think Three's Company had a good ending, but didn't need that tacked on transition to the next show. So yeah, don't watch that. And the ones that I would recommend which is now, of course, The Chase. Watch that. Watch the GSM version and even watch the ABC version. They're good shows. In fact, the ABC version actually takes the music cues from the British original. So that's good. And another, I'm trying to think of one that's not game show related. Of course, wait a minute. I'm going to do it since it's the 50th anniversary of the show. Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to go 50 years because this is the 50th anniversary of the show, All the Family.
Yeah.
Because it's 50 years. And plus, my thing, here's what they did. A couple of years before the COVID situation, Norman Lear and Jimmy Kimmel did a live before studio audience, and they did 2 episodes from the remake, word for word verbatim, remake of All in the Family live, showcasing that those shows could be done now. And even though it's a little the corniness of it, I still think the show could be done now. I think it should be done now because of what we did with Trump and all that. It should be done now because we went through 4 years of a bad president, and we went through all of that language. We can get through a year of bigotry, sexism with a sexist, bigoted man on television being made a fool of on television. And
so I have a question real quick. And this is a show I have not seen. I haven't seen the British version, nor have I seen the American version. But I want your opinion on this. Shameless.
It's good.
Yes.
I like Shameless.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Me too. Yeah.
Good. It's a good show.
Okay.
It is. Because it's so, it's interesting because we don't talk about class. And that is a show about class. You know, if anything, we kind of we love, keeping up appearances. You have Onslow, you have, the different classes in that show. Whereas, oh my gosh, it's people don't realize like the British have such a lower class.
Yeah.
So when you have that in America, it's like, oh yeah, I've seen those people and stuff. Yeah.
And the ending of the British version is much better than the American version. I thought the American version ending is okay, but the British version had a better ending, a better class of ending.
I would agree on that.
So I have one more question for you guys before we start to wrap it up. And I just need a few words. What British show do you think should be remade? Michael.
Michael, where?
But Matthew, sorry.
Look, you were remade.
That will depend. It depends. Honestly, I can't think of one that's currently, but one that I think could be remade is a show called Never the Twain about 2 antique dealers with class differences. Played by Donald Fenton.
Oh my God, I love Donald.
And that show, Never the Twain, is 2 antiques dealers. One with a higher class, one is lower class, and they're colliding. There's some good conflict in it. I think the question is who will play the characters.
Okay.
So,
all right, Rox, really, really quick. What show?
Oh, I love Two's Company since you brought up Donaldson, and we lost Elaine Stritch a number of years ago. I just love her. But I don't know who that would be. So mystery writer. Oh my God, yes, we could do this because she's still around, Angela Lansbury.
Yeah.
And I think Peter Capaldi is the butler. I'm done.
Yeah. Well, it will be the second remake because they did one in the 80s.
And Janae.
Yes, they did.
Oh, why me? I don't think I have a recommendation because the show I would have recommended has already been remade, and that would be Top Gear.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was it good?
That's a difficult one.
I love Top Gear. I love cars.
Then bring it back. That's your answer. Bring it back.
You know what they should have done really quick is they really should have had, instead of Adam Carolla for the American, they should have, before One of them passed away. They should have used Click and Clack, the Tappet brothers.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Yes,
That would have been
I
awesome.
would have watched that. I would have
I
watched
would
that.
watch that, and they could put it on
Yeah.
PBS and sell it during their promotion years.
Yeah, that
Months,
would
All
have
right.
days. Yeah.
So, surprisingly, we have already run the gamut of this panel. But I want to thank each of you guys, Matthew, Janae, Rocks. Matthew, what are you up to these days?
Well, I've just got my ticket for Dragon Con, which again we already
Excellent.
taped already. So
Hey,
but,
we're here.
yeah, and I'll be still buying British stuff. Like back here, I'm actually going to be reviewing some of these British games that are based off game shows. It's right behind me, so I'll be reviewing them soon and making my opinion. So it's coming soon. I just got to figure out the format and how I'm going to do it.
Excellent. We look forward to it. Rocks, where can we find you?
Oh, you can find me on needcoffee.com's Weekend Justice podcast. And if you need any research done, hit me up at Spaz House LLC on Instagram and Twitter. And
excellent. All right. And Janae?
Well, you don't want to find me when I'm at my magistrate job, because that would mean that you've done something you shouldn't do. But you do want to find me at the DragonCon Vendor Hall store, where we'll be selling official DragonCon merchandise. So I can't wait to see everybody there.
I need to talk to you about getting an official pin for this year.
Just hit me up and let me know.
Thank you. All right. Well, Matt, Janae, Rocks, thank you very much. The BritTrack, of course, can be found on Facebook at the BritTrack and DragonCon. We are also at Twitter at BritTrack, and we're on Instagram at DC BritTrack. You're going to find us all the weekend in the Hilton, in the bottom, in the basement, the Gallery of 5. Hopefully, that may change. But come join us online. We have all sorts of things going on, announcements and conversations and polls. It's just a lot of fun.
Yep, we're excited to be back, and we can't wait to see everybody.
Yeah,
love each and every one of you, and thank you, DragonCon. We're gonna see you there. We're gonna rock the box.
Love you guys.
I'll be near the box.